guests right now with Jonas Max Ferris. We've got Rebecca Walser as well. Rebecca, what do you make of obviously the optimism Apple is showing ahead of this huge announcement? You don't do that in an environment where it looks dicey. Maybe you do if you want to cheat fate, but I mean, that's a big commitment, an expensive one.
It is, Neil, and it just goes to show that tech is still where it's at, and Apple's got the benefit of being both on the hardware side with their phones, and they're showing us that they're not afraid to use that side, and also that they're on the ad revenue side and all those other things that they have on their platform with the iTunes store and all those things. So I think that they're obviously knowing something that maybe we don't know, or they're encouraged that they can go for with such a large, massive launch, and more power to them. I'm ready for it.
You know, Jonas, we're talking about the economic numbers and all of this, and you know, we had at ADP a report today on the services sector that grew by about 4 to 28,000. That was half what many expected would be, but continues a surge in jobs since the worst days of the pandemic that I think now is going into 4 months. What do you make of what's happening on the jobs front there?
Well, I think it looks like a steady, slow recovery is in place. And as people kind of wean back into the workforce, there's going to be hiring. There's still a lot of demand. It's not the strongest economy of all time, but considering everything, it's pretty good. And that's basically why the stock market is, I would say, way ahead of, but basically in anticipating this continuing for much longer to all new highs in the future. It's almost like, you know, in the past, the market would fall more. We'd wait to see things get better before it would go. Now it's just, we know that buying on dip is working. So the market already is as if we're back to highs in hiring, low unemployment. And hopefully that's the path we're on. But no one really knows, because we don't know how things are going to continue, obviously in travel, but also as people go back to the workforce, with unemployment ending, with, you know, people not being able to pay rent. So it's a very risky bet, but it's betting on recovery continuing back to old times, basically.
You know, Rebecca, what's interesting when you look at these consumer sentiment surveys, investor sentiment surveys, that one blurs into the other, frankly, with me. But one common theme expressed is anxiety about where things are now and where they'll be. I mean, you know, people need to be, I guess, pinched and convinced that this is real. And for the time being, many times when asked about how long this goes on, they have their concerns. How is that affecting the psyche? You know what I mean? Like, because that has a lot to do with whether we continue to go out and buy, whether we continue to look forward, build up the things for the future and all of that. I'm just wondering where that's fixing into this.
Yeah, that's a big question, Neil, because obviously I have some people that I think on the investment side that literally will say, oh, well, I've made everything back already and everything's fine. And I'm like, have you checked the fact that the entire U.S. is not reopened? That United today is saying that if the government stimulus doesn't continue and it expires, they'll lay off 16,000 people. We know American has already said 19,000 if the government stimulus doesn't continue. We are not built. Technology's done great, and that's been wonderful because it works well when we're working from home, but the economy doesn't work well when working from home. We aren't going to retail. We aren't going to luxury. We aren't traveling. So airlines, we cannot sustain this level, Neil, indefinitely. We can't stimulate our way out of the mess indefinitely. We have got to get the economy reopened. So I think there are realistic people out there that realize that. And so they have mixed sentiments. There's like, this has got to end. We've got to get back to some kind of normal. And then you have people that are oblivious and are like, oh, my 401k is back to normal and everything's fine. No, that's not the case. So we've got to get back to a new level of normal, and hopefully we're on that track. We just really need people to start getting back to normal, getting back to work. The fact that in Manhattan, that de Blasio isn't even going to let people eat inside restaurants until next year. I mean, I feel like we're on planet Mars sometimes, Neil, and this is not going to work out if we don't get back to normal.
Just do what Jonas did and make your plans for all those New Jersey restaurants that are opening up on Friday. Guys, thank you all very, very much. I apologize for the time crunch here. I do want to go to Grady Trimble, though.